Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Monday, the 3rd of August. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about Trump has halted new strikes on Iran amid deal hopes. A Moscow restaurant has blown up in what they called a terror attack, and Ukrainian drones have killed 2 as they continue to hit warehouses. So firstly, President Trump said that Washington will hold off on new strikes against Iran while negotiators pursue a fresh agreement over Tehran's nuclear program. The pause follows months of intermittent US and Israeli operations that degraded Iranian facilities, but stopped short of forcing concessions. Trump framed the halt as a good faith gesture while warning that military options remain on the table if the talks collapse. So what? I think a negotiated deal was a realistic possibility here now that both sides signal an appetite for the talks, though I do not believe it'll be the deal that Trump wants or hopes for. I think Israel likely retains the option to strike Iran unilaterally if they judge that the pause is a stalling tactic we've seen in the past. Well, actually, Israel has kind of held off strikes recently, but they definitely maintain the appetite for them. And Trump almost certainly intends the halt as a leverage rather than a lasting strategic concession, though I'm not really sure it's working at this stage. I don't believe that Trump has a way out of this that will work for him, and that at some point he's going to have to make some pretty significant concessions that he doesn't really want to. And next, an explosion tore through a restaurant in Moscow, killing and wounding several people in what the mayor called a brutal terror attack. Russian investigators have opened a criminal case and sealed off the district as forensics teams work to establish the cause. The blast lands amid a widening pattern of sabotage and unexplained attacks inside Russia during their war in Ukraine. So what? Russian security services will almost certainly frame the attack around Ukraine or domestic dissent, regardless of the true perpetrator, though it does seem like that is the most likely cause, let's say. From what I understand, the forensic tests pointed towards homemade explosives rather than military explosives, which is interesting, let's say, because Ukraine wouldn't have a shortage of military explosives, and they could probably get it inside Russia at this point. So the use of homemade explosives is a bit of a spanner in kind of most theories, but yeah. I think it'll lead to further tightening of surveillance and security across Moscow in the coming days, probably months as well. And the organized involvement rather than a lone actor seems like a realistic possibility, though attribution remains difficult. It's possible that Ukraine will claim the attack in the future, but we'll have to see. Also, I don't think it's mentioned it so far. The target was a general in the Russian military. So, a pretty highly sought after figure for an assassination attempt. And lastly, Ukrainian deep strike drones have hit deep inside Russia overnight, killing 2 people and are hitting warehouses belonging to the e-commerce giant Wildberries, regional governors said. The attack forms part of Ukraine's sustained campaign to impose economic and logistical costs on Russian territory far from the front line. Wildberries is one of Russia's largest distribution networks, making its sites both symbolic and a practical target for disrupting domestic supply chains. So what? I think it's highly likely at this point that Ukraine is going to continue to expand their long-range drone campaign, especially against logistics infrastructure and also economic targets. I think it's possible that they will expand these out to a company called Ozon, which is a Wildberries competitor, though there was unconfirmed reports that they'd already done this a few days ago, but it's also possible that this was just a bit of a mistargeting, as Wildberries was something like 100 meters away. So it's unconfirmed yet if they have expanded the scope. But yeah, the targeting of a major civilian retailer will likely sharpen Russian calls for retaliatory strikes on Ukrainian cities. However, they are going to be less effective, in my opinion, because Ukraine doesn't have large distribution centers anymore, such as this, due to them already being targeted by Russia. So, it's going to be much more difficult for Russia to mirror these tactics. And sustained disruption on Russian distribution hubs is a realistic possibility if Ukraine continues to hold their current drone tempo, which at this point seems quite likely. They are able to consistently hit logistical hubs, oil infrastructure, and maritime vessels all at the same time while also selling drones to foreign countries. So it doesn't seem like drone procurement is going to be a choke point at this stage in the conflict, which is pretty good to see for Ukraine at this point. And it's probably a massive shock to Russia, as I don't think they thought Ukraine could get here. But anyway, that's been the Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you again tomorrow. See you.